Hare Krishna. My name is Kṛṣṇa Kīrti Dāsaḥ, and I am the convener for the ISKCON India Scholars Board. And here with me is Śrīdhara Śrīnivāsa Prabhu, senior scholar of the ISKCON India Scholars Board and author. And we are going to be continuing our podcast from the previous video. And so we're going to take a broader look at some of the rhetoric used in this in the video by Dayānanda Mahārāja and two senior lady leaders of ISKCON in North America. So, Hare Krishna. So I'm going to start off here. I'm just going to jump into this. This is Prabhupāda Priya Devi Dasi. She says after Dayānanda Mahārāja gives more or less what we recited in the last video. She says, Prabhupāda Priya Devi Dasi, thank you. It was very enlightening and moving. I was thinking in this regard that in terms of analogy, you use the word usurping, hijacking. It's just like, an aircraft being hijacked by terrorists. If the managerial captain of the ship is supposed to be the GBC, according to Srila Prabhupada's very clear, direct statement, and yet this other group has come in and basically threatened the captain, pushed him aside, bound and gagged him, and taken over. And now the intention is to take the movement, take ISKCON into a direction that is not the direction that Srila Prabhupada wanted it to go in. Just like terrorists will take the aircraft off course and crash it into something. So, and Madhavananda Prabhu posted something. I'll just read what he posted because I thought it was very interesting. He said, if a group of institutional leaders decree by vote that regardless of spiritual qualifications, simply on the basis of one's material body, that one can or cannot be guru, then such a sangha will become an aprasampradaya. So yeah, the effect of hijacking is that ISKCON is becoming an aprasampradaya. So my immediate reaction to this is that when is the schism taking place? Because if you're talking like this, that the people who oppose you have no, if you're talking like this, it means you don't think that there's anything they can say or have said or will say that will have any worth, anything worth considering. And so we might say something, but they're not going to listen. We're just terrorists. I just don't have, with this kind of rhetoric, I have very little hope, almost no hope that there's going to be a peaceful solution to this.
And
What do you
in
think?
2019, at the Tirupati MGM meeting, you and I were there. And obviously the other side, Prabhupada Priya Devi Dasi, her side got a favorable verdict. And we didn't call them hijackers. This is crazy that this is the sour grape thing. That just because you don't have a proper śāstric explanation and based on one's own mental speculation, they start saying that if you don't recognize female devotees in female bodies as gurus, then you become apasampradaya. That means the entire Sri Vaishnava Sampradaya is apasampradaya, according to Madhavananda.
Yeah, so
you're right. You're right. We have reached a dead end that no matter what you say, my way or highway.
Yeah, so already we saw that they're trying to launch. People are trying to launch boycott of the temple of the Veda, the TOVP, the planetarium, over this. My question is, who's really taking a knife to Prabhupada's body? I don't think it's not us. We went to the GBC. We went through our leadership first of all. You and I, among other devotees, we were elected. We were put forth by the the ISKCON India leadership in Visakhapatnam to represent the Indian leadership's concerns. And the GBC accepted our request.
And in 2019, we were there. Why would they have not called us in when they called Kaunteya in? Why should Kaunteya attend and present his book and his side? I checked with Hridaya, one of the GBCs, that yes, they did have a presentation of the other side, but they didn't hear from us.
Yeah, and it was only a majority opinion that prevailed, not a super majority. It was a majority opinion, a slight majority.
Two votes or something. And again, if they had given us the chance, then definitely we would have, presented our side.
Yeah, as I said, this is the first time that leaders outside of the GBC bureaucracy were allowed to present to their side to the GBC.
Yeah, and I think it's not that the ISKCON India Scholars Board earned its merit. When it came to SGTA, the Jagannath temple issue, we presented enough and we instilled enough faith in the leadership that the leadership called us based on our merit, not because of our political power.
Yeah. People think that, all we do is sit around all day thinking how we're going to press women, but my God, this thing is there are really bigger problems that we have to deal with. And one of these things is the issue of the Jagannath Rath Yatra issue. And one of the important things is that they've come to us, they're not part of our sampradaya, so they say, you're not following the shastras. Well, we think that's very important, and we agree with them on that point. And so our presentation to defend Prabhupada, what we've attempted to do is we've attempted to defend Prabhupada's decision for off for off Rath Yatra dates that actually there is sanctioned in Shastra. And to his credit, Kalakanta Prabhu in the GBC meeting made some mention of that. I appreciate that. So not everybody on that side thinks that, all we do is just oppress women, but maybe, 95% of our time we do that. But that's also ridiculous. I'm sorry. This shows
a deep divide. This shows a deep divide, and it's like almost we are coming to the Tenkalai, Vadakalai kind of situation where we start to do things and that there will be permanent demarcation and we'll start branding.
Yeah. We should do another podcast on that one alone. That's a very interesting period of history. But I want to keep moving here. I want to keep moving here on one point I wanted before we move on from more theoretic, one small point that we should address later in more depth is that this is a oversimplification that Madhavananda's Prabhu's statement, if it is, he actually did say that. I haven't confirmed it with him, but somebody said that regardless of spiritual qualifications, simply on the basis of one's material body, that one cannot become a guru. Well, female Diksha Guru is simply the special case. It's a special case of the more broader issue of non-liberated persons acting as guru. In so many places, Prabhupada said one must be liberated, one must be fully self-realized. Well, what if you're only 99% realized? We've seen even just in, recently, within last year, another stalwart devotee fall down. Sannyasi, very senior sannyasi, got sannyas from Prabhupada and so forth, and he fell down. So we're dealing, ISKCON candidates are not liberated souls. They're not fully free from the influence of the material energy. And then when those who are not fully free from the influence of the material energy, there's the question is, how do you protect those people? And the answer to that is varnashram. So the issue with persons at that level, in my humble opinion, is not that is a body, but if you're not on that topmost level of realization, then there's an issue of compliance with varnashram rules. And for men and women, there are differences. So that's just what I just wanted to make that point before moving on. Do you have anything to add to that?
No, we should move on to the next point.
Let's move on. So Prabhupada Devi Dasi, after this this extended terrorist hijacking analogy, she says, your comments on that? Hridayananda Goswami says, well, Suniti, would you like to? She says, no, go ahead. Okay, Hridayananda. I like the hijacking analogy. I think it would be interesting to ask the India Bureau if they are prepared to follow the GBC direction. Since Prabhupada put the GBC in charge of ISKCON and said, even if you disagree with the GBC decision, you must follow it. And then, of course, you can lobby or work to change it. So, what do you think?
Hridayananda Mahārāja should preach to the NA Council. The same thing, even before the GBC meeting. Can you read the NA Council's declaration?
Yeah. Let me look for that.
And I'll paraphrase while you retrieve that. NA Council had said whether or not this moratorium is extended or not, while GBC is discussing, or we don't care. With immediate effect, we will be making Vaishnavis as Diksha Gurus, something like that. You should read that verbatim.
Yeah.
And why would the same thing not, Hridayananda Mahārāja would not ask this question to NA Council? And would NA Council not be bound by GBC to wait for the GBC and respect the GBC's moratorium? And during the moratorium, why would they threaten? And why would they be even saying, even if the moratorium is extended, we would do what we want to do? So do they not respect GBC? It's not that, I'm not saying because NA Council is saying we are also entitled to say, but the point here is that Maharaj, if you live in glass houses, don't throw glasses. Don't throw stones at glass houses.
Yeah, don't throw stones in glass houses. So really, kind of what we're seeing here is we're seeing a double standard.
Yeah, and it's a sepoy mentality. Basically, British did this to Indians, and Hridayananda Mahārāja is really wanting to impose that sepoyism. You know what a sepoyism is. The British had all the sepoys treated like slaves.
Yeah.
So he's threatening. He wouldn't do the same thing to North America, but he would come and ask India Bureau. So this is like he's trying to politicize this.
Yeah. So that was a letter that the North American GBC, the North American Leadership Council sent to the GBC that got shared with us prior to the meeting. So we read that. That was an interesting letter that they said that, as far as we're concerned, even if there's that even if there is some other moratorium, we're not, we're not necessarily bound to that moratorium.
With immediate effect, we would do. They were even, I think I just saw something come through on my WhatsApp, and there's the GBC, the North American RGB is actually meeting now post GBC's declaration resolution. So
yeah,
they may be coming, and Hridayananda Mahārāja would probably have some work to do if he is sincere and he means that we all should be respecting GBC. By the way, why is Hridayananda Mahārāja starting Krishna West? If he is preaching to the choir, why would he not disband his Krishna West and agree to GBC? Come on.
That's the thing. Back in 2016, he actually wrote a very lengthy paper, which was, in many respects, very well thought out. He was talking about it because he wasn't getting the imprimatur of the GBC, the approval of the GBC to run his Krishna West project. And then he was basically talking about the times that there were interventions in the society, and he talks about that in his thing, that that devotees, senior disciples, devotees, that the GBC was doing the wrong thing. They stepped out and they said, this is wrong. And he's actually trying to incite ISKCON Indian leaders to do the same thing with a bunch of what he calls thugs.
My point is, does Hridayananda Mahārāja accept GBC as the ultimate authority? Sincerely, I'm asking.
Yeah.
If he does so, should he not be following the regulations given for a sannyasi by the GBC? I hardly see him in sannyas dress. I hardly see him with tilak. I hardly see him with kantimala. Does GBC say that the sannyasis can play ping pong? Come on, if I start nitpicking, I would say, let's set our house proper before we preach to others.
I think just one last point on this is that I don't really have objection if someone wants to try that, but why do you need to criticize everybody else? The fact is, you have a perfect pure devotee who loved seeing his disciples wear dhoti and sari, and why shouldn't that be the basis for the dress code in ISKCON? What the acharya likes. In fact, this is atmatushti. This is mentioned as a praman in Manusmriti and also Yajnavalkya Smriti, that Shruti Smriti Saracharaha Swasyacha Priyamatmanaha. So, these same four pramanas are for knowing Dharma.
No, you're right, Kṛṣṇa Kīrti Prabhu, but we are talking beyond. Hridayananda Mahārāja is following double standards. He wants one standard for Indians, that the Indians should accept GBC. I'm not saying India should not accept GBC, but I don't like to hear this from someone who himself doesn't follow GBC, and he cannot see he wouldn't give the same advice to the North American Council. It's better that he doesn't talk about these things.
Yeah. So anyway, I just want to let's just move on here. So we like the hijacking analogy. And so next thing he says, now, and he's saying in India, it's a very sensitive about having Indian things under control of their former colonizers. Now that's being interpreted falsely by the usurpers.
Mm-hmm.
We're usurpers.
Yeah.
You don't have to take anything they say seriously, because they're, again, this is top-notch propaganda. You demonize somebody. If you demonize somebody, then you can do all sorts of things to them. You can spit on them. You can yell at them. You can even kill them with impunity. And that's what I'm very afraid of, is that the rhetoric that they are exhibiting is going to lead to someone getting hurt.
That I don't doubt. I'm afraid either as well.
Yeah. So he says that in fact, when Prabhupada dictated his last will and testament, he did not say, quote, the entire ISKCON except for India and the GBC shall be the ultimate managing authority for the entire ISKCON except for India.
This is ridiculous. Who is talking? In
2016, when he was arguing, he was was on the other end, and he had no problem arguing that, well, sometimes the GBC is wrong, and sometimes you have to take special measures to get the society back on track. He was fine with that, but
there is a Tamil saying that translates, if the mother-in-law breaks a pot, it's always a mud pot in value, I mean less value. But if a daughter-in-law breaks a pot, it's always a golden pot that she broke. No matter, even if it is a mud pot, it's a golden pot.
Yeah.
So this is the tendency, and this is what is called, authoritarianism, and this is really suppression. This is like, what is that? Big Brother.
Yeah, Big Brother, Orwell, Big Brother, yes.
Yeah, I can do, but you can't. And whatever you do is, I'm going to find fault. So this is you try to create a sepoy. You think the Indians are all only sepoys and they have to follow the orders. They cannot think on their own. And
it's an elitist mentality.
What's that?
It's an elitist mentality.
Yeah, elitist. It's like if you say something, then it becomes, oh, you're not following GBC. This is how they try to rule this masses. They think, but I think the Indian youngsters, especially the younger generation, they're not going to put up with this kind of authoritarianism.
And I tell you, in their video, it goes downhill from there. It gets progressively worse. It's like you can't believe it almost. So continuing on, he says, quote, so for some time now, the leaders of India have been flirting with rejecting Prabhupada's orders. And he says there's a generation of leaders who never actually were recognized by Prabhupada's leaders. None of them, not one person who was behind this group, this usurpation, not one of them was ever recognized by Prabhupada as a senior leader to be trusted as senior leaders, not one of them. Wow.
What is that? Can you paraphrase that for me?
I'll repeat it again. I'll say it slowly. He says, there's a generation. He says, but there's a generation of leaders who never actually were recognized by Prabhupada's leaders. None of them, not one person who was behind this coup, this usurpation. Not one of them was ever recognized by Prabhupada as a senior leader to be trusted as a senior leader. Not one of them.
So he is claiming because he was in front of Prabhupada, he was born earlier than me, for instance, and I have not seen Prabhupada, he thinks he is superior. Is this the level they come down to?
Well, he's including himself, Jayapataka Maharaj, Gopal Krishna Goswami as kind of like a group of people.
But it should be for following the Prabhupada. Ishvaranam vacha satyam. It's not just that I was there, at that time, so I get all the, I don't understand this. You have to follow, an Acharya's words is implementable for a disciple if the Acharya had stated it and he had also done it.
So just to kind of like just mention here that he's mentioning himself in the same breath with Jayapataka Maharaj, Gopal Krishna Maharaj, because all of them are on record as supporting the female Diksha Guru issue. Now, one thing is, this is to respect everybody's great and amazing accomplishments and spiritual qualities. But we're still talking about persons who, you may not be, you may be a very wonderful devotee in many ways, but still sometimes there's an issue. Like, for example, in India, there have been many schools that have been started with the explicit intention of following government syllabus. So now this is pointed out that Prabhupada spoke vehemently against government syllabus schools, that we should never do it. He was even asked, can we do this? Prabhupada said no. And yet some of these devotees, some devotee leaders here, they pressed forward with that. So now you've got a choice here. You've got a choice here that Prabhupada said one thing and a leader said another thing. So now what does that mean? Are we actually, can we not actually go, if Prabhupada is our Shiksha Guru, can we not continue to take shelter of that Shiksha? And I think the answer to that is yes. So otherwise, what does it mean to get ISKCON back on track? If getting ISKCON on track, if following Prabhupada means only following what your immediate leader is, then the question never arises that ISKCON is ever going off track, because it's always just do what the leader says.
And adding Vaishnavi ministry into GBC and having women in GBC, did Prabhupada do this? Did Prabhupada say, so how would you justify this? Would Hridayananda Mahārāja support that?
Well, here's the thing. I mean, there's going to be many situations that come up that, we're going to have to do something that Prabhupada never did, because you have new situations, new times, new circumstances that were never anticipated.
But the point is, if we did it, it's wrong. And if you did, sorry, not you, if they did it, they have reasons to do it.
Well, I think the issue is for the women's ministry is that why do we have a group of women who are lobbying very, very openly for equality, social equality, political equality within ISKCON? And when our scriptures and Prabhupada himself is saying that women are not fit for independence, why do we have a body of ISKCON, a part of ISKCON that's actually basically rejecting that? That's the point. The point is that such things are not in line with Prabhupada's teachings. So, shall I move on?
Yeah.
Okay. So let's see.
And
there's just, it's like this is like being in a mosquito in a nudist colony. Where to begin? Okay, so he's saying about, let's say there are conservative devotees in ISKCON who believe that women shouldn't initiate for whatever reason. They're not threatening anybody. They're just voicing their view. They have a right to do that. We're not talking about them. We're not talking about devotees who are simply speaking their conscience and trying to persuade other devotees, including leaders, that this is better for ISKCON. They have a God-given, Prabhupada-given right to do that. No one's questioning that. We're talking about mafia tactics. We're talking about people who are threatening to betray Prabhupada's system, threatening to destroy Prabhupada's system. That's what we're talking about. So we go before the GBC, first time in 25 years that we're allowed to do that. And now we're the mafia.
Just for the... this is... He doesn't have any... He ran out of all śāstric arguments. And now all they try to do is take ad hominem attacks. That's it. Again, I ask the same question. Please provide one śāstric reference for support of female Diksha Guru. And also, please explain to me, if they are claiming seniorship of Prabhupada and being Prabhupada disciples, why are they not following Prabhupada's instructions to implement varṇāśrama?
One question I have for you that on this point is the shloka from Madhya Lila, Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Lila 8:128, that Kiba Vipra Kipanyasi Shuddhakena Ye Krishna Tattva Veta Se Guru Hai. Why is that not a shloka or shastric evidence in support of a female Diksha gurus.
No, that verse, first of all, we have to know what is Krishna Tattva Veda. Is it just that anybody can say, I know Krishna? Somebody who has passed Bhakti Shastri exam, would they not be Krishna Tattva Veda? What would you say?
Well,
somebody passed Bhakti Vaibhava, would they not be? So they may say, Prabhupada said, you pass Bhakti Vedanta, then you can be initiating spiritual master. Still, are they Krishna Tattva Veda? So are we not oversimplifying, simply coming and saying Krishna Tattva Veda and anybody can become guru? And also, I personally find it that there is a purport by Prabhupada, Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, Canto 6, I believe it's 1643, where Prabhupada says Bhagavata Dharma and varṇāśrama-dharma are non-different. And Krishna consciousness. So he emphasizes, the entire purport is emphasizing restoration of varṇāśrama-dharma and Aryan civilization. And he is bringing out the point there that Krishna Katha and this varṇāśrama-dharma or Bhagavata Dharma are non-different. So Krishna Tattva Veda cannot ignore these instructions. So we just simply cannot take one part and apply it. And also, simply saying Krishna Tattva Veda is sufficient means it's going against Narada Pāñcarātra verses. You still have to, because if Chaitanya Charitamrita is in the category of Smriti, would you agree, Kṛṣṇa Kīrti Prabhu?
Well, what I would say is like...
No, I'm getting to a point. If it is in the category of Smriti, and if Bharadvāja Samhita is also considered Smriti, Narada Pāñcarātra, if they both are saying little opposite things, what is the way to reconcile?
Well, if you have scriptures on the same level, then you
have a higher one.
The higher one, you read one in the one that's higher has the you understand it in its most direct form, and then the lesser authority you understand in a way that is in line with the higher authority.
Right. So I don't know. If we think this Bhagavad Gita, Srila Prabhupada says, Rishibir Bahuda Gitam. I mean, Krishna says, you know that verse? It's a Prasthanatraya. Rishibir Bahuda Gitam, where the first category is Smriti, then the next category is Shruti, and then Vedanta Sutra.
Oh, yes. Yes. This is 13.5.
13.5, exactly.
Yeah. So,
my point is, Chaitanya Charitamrita, definitely, we have to consider this whole, it's a holistic view is needed. You cannot take one verse. And then if it is conflicting with even Srila Prabhupada's own statement from Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam 4.12.32, it has to be explained. Not that Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam 4.12.32 is a historic statement and dismiss it. That's not the way. We still have to explain how Suniti was not a Krishna Tattva Veda.
Well, she was Krishna Tattva Veda, but it's just that she was a Dhruva Maharaj Shiksha Guru, but Prabhupada says that she could not become his Diksha Guru. So we have to understand, we have to look to Shastra and the tradition as to why that was the case. And so in this case, we found that yes, the Pāñcarātra Shastras actually do prohibit women and Shudras and others who are and others lower than that from becoming Diksha Guru.
So then the Krishna Tattva Veda statement must also be understood in conjunction with a higher Shastra Pramana, right?
Yeah. And that same Shastra also stipulates that someone who is someone who is actually on the you can see the truth directly. You can actually perceive the absolute truth directly.
No, seeing the Lord face to face, Pratyakshita Atmanatanam. So Krishna Tattva Veda is also qualified by Pratyakshita Atmanatanam. Na esham chintayan kuladikam. So when there is a way for us to see it, and if we refuse to reconcile, that is a defect coming out of our inherent nature of vipralipsa.
Yeah, this is a vipralipsa. And I just want to point out further that some people say that statement in Bharadwaj Samhita, Pratyaksha Tattva Natanam, is just that's just for Tattva Gyan, not for the highest level.
Now,
but Baladev Vidyabhushana glosses this is that for the reason Pratyakshi Krita Parishat. So for that reason,
Sakshat Krita.
No. He uses this in different places, but Pratyakshi Krita Parishat. That's what he says. And so that's for the Parishat, that's that from this. So Pratyakshi Krita Pareshaha. So this is defined by Maniari Williams as either only Brahma or Lord Vishnu, and guess which one it is in this that Baladev is referring to. It's Lord Vishnu. So Baladev Vidyabhushana is giving even more clarity. His gloss is that it's direct being able to directly perceive the Lord is that higher qualification.
So we simply cannot dismiss scriptures in a whimsical way. So my understanding, you asked me, Krishna Tattva Veda, I go and see various scriptures and their levels and try to understand and try to bring a harmony. And this is our duty, because Vedanta Sutra says, Tattu Samanvayat.
Yes.
Vedanta Sutra is calling for, when you have conflicts, you must do a Samanvaya.
Yes, exactly.
Siddhanta Baliye Chitta Nakara Alasa.
This is the giant fault of the pro-FDG side, is that they present their arguments are rupturous. They're not consistent. In other words, they cannot harmonize all these different shāstras.
Yeah,
that's the point. Our side can, their side cannot. This is what Prabhupada said to Professor Stahl in his debate. He said the Mayavad side actually is wrong because it presents a rupturous appearance to the shāstras. So that's one of our chief complaints, is that the pro-FDG side is just kind of like grabbing here, grabbing there, interpreting, just like in the SAC paper. They actually discounted that they actually confounded. They actually problematized Prabhupada's statements. That we don't know what it means. Maybe he said this, maybe he said that. They problematized Prabhupada. So, this is a good sign. This is a very good sign, very strong indication that the pro-female Diksha Guru side is on the wrong track.
And they just now have no other answer other than to, instigate the Indian devotees. They think Indian devotees will just listen to this and not have an independently thoughtful mind.
Yeah.
It's an insult. It's an insult to the Indian devotees, thinking that they can be arm twisted and you can wedge anything into their mind.
Yeah, exactly. I have just one last point to make on this, is that actually we don't have in ISKCON, we actually don't have any problem with Shudras not being allowed to initiate. In fact, there's a 2014 resolution from the GBC that says only those who have been twice initiated for the past 10 years are allowed to be considered candidates for Guru. So those who have gotten only first initiation, well, they're out of luck. They can never become Diksha Guru according to GBC law. So nobody has any problem with that, I guess, because they're not beautiful or something like the women, or I don't know. But nobody has any problem with that. So we're on the point of shooters. Actually, we are actually strictly in line with Bharadwaj Samhita. We have an essay on that on the ISKCON India Scholars Board website, by the way. So Anyway, I'd like to move on.
Okay.
Yeah, let's just get through this. Okay. Prabhupada Priya Devi Dasi. Again, she says, you know, the same body, this is the, she's talking about the Bureau, uses a lot of intimidation tactics on the Indian leaders themselves. Because I was at a conference, International Temple Presidents meeting, and I was sitting at a table, this was a couple of years ago, and with a table full of ISKCON temple presidents, Indian temple presidents, and they were actually venting their frustration at, they would be trying to lead their communities, build their congregations, manage their centers, and then the Indian Bureau would sweep in and basically just overturn their decisions, you know, issue their edicts about this has to be like this has to be like that, this person has to be in this position, and just, you know, micromanage the whole thing. That is educated, competent leaders are just disempowered.
Do you want me to?
Yeah, Prabhupada, this is Prabhupada Priya Devi Dasi saying this.
And you saw how many ICC resolution. ICC is a body of temple presidents. They are not compelled to attend even. Not every temple president even. I mean, it's got a good majority representation of various temples at various levels, not just all our temple presidents. They even invite me from ISKCON India Scholars Board. So Bureau has actually empowered these Indian leaders, and this Mataji is saying that based on her one-off experience that she heard somewhere, and she wants to classify the entire Indian Bureau to be autocratic, dictatorship.
Yeah.
I don't know. She must have been, I don't know. I don't want to comment on her state of thought, but she's not representing India in a proper way. I would say that's a misrepresentation.
Yeah. So the thing is this, is that this is not, you know, this is not, you know, this is to be expected here.
Yeah. When you run out of arguments which are logical, Shastra based, you can expect these things.
Yeah. So the thing is that there's also a difference, you know, between how men think about this and how women think about these things, you know, how women understand these things. It's, you know, it's just like, for example, in Chitraketu, you know, the case of Chitraketu and Parvati cursing him. Actually, Prabhupada says that Chitraketu Mahārāja that was misunderstood by Parvati, and that Parvati actually wrongly cursed Mahārāja Chitraketu.
Anyway, I agree with you that Prabhupada, you know, all the teachings, I personally don't think what this Mataji is saying is true, because I have seen many of the, you know, ISKCON India leaders in the ICC. They're all so happy actually to attend the ICC meetings, because they do feel that, and also ISKCON Bureau has different district councils. They have different levels of meeting. They have all bureaucratic, systematic, and they also have an open forum where they also hear. So this is really, you know, amateur to say that Bureau is acting in a way to impose its views. Certainly, Bureau has to operate in a particular framework because there are so many, it's the legal body. Anything that any temple, it's the buck stops with the Bureau. We all know that. But the point is, the Bureau is, at least this is my personal opinion and my observation, that they have various levels of bodies. And Bureau even allowed us to attend this GBC meeting, Kṛṣṇa Kīrti Prabhu.
Mm-hmm.
You may want to comment on this. Bureau even allowed us, right, to go and present against FDG, but at the same time, the Bureau members were also part of a joint committee, presenting another opinion. So how can Bureau be accused of always imposing on its devotees? I have never seen, this demonstrates that there is a democratic process. And this Mataji is simply taking one example of something that she observed. And she's being very emotional, I think. This is probably what you are trying to say, that the views of different people are different. But the fact doesn't change because my perception is one way or the other.
Yeah. So here it is. This is in Canto 6, Bhagavatam, Canto 6, Chapter 17, text 34 to 35. Prabhupada says, here is a difference between male and female that exists even in the higher statuses of life. In fact, even between Lord Shiva and his wife. Lord Shiva could understand Chitraketu very nicely, but Parvati could not. Thus, even in the higher statuses of life, there's a difference between the understanding of a male and that of a female. It may be clearly said that the understanding of a woman is always inferior to the understanding of a man. In the Western countries, there is now agitation to the effect that man and woman should be considered equal. But from this verse, it appears that woman is always less intelligent than man.
And that's one purport Hridayānanda Mahārāja may not, would not like and subscribe.
Well, this is what we're afraid of, is that we, because this is already this point has already been spoken of, that this is yet another one of innumerable statements of Prabhupada that are going to come under the editorial acts for spreading, in the name of spreading Prabhupada's movement. So why shouldn't we take this? My question is, why should we not take this statement to heart and base our social policy on it? I mean, isn't that what the demons are doing? They're basing their social policy on a completely opposite thing, that men and women should be equal in the social, political, economic, and other areas. So that's why we think that women, just like they were in other times, shouldn't be in responsible senior positions of authority in society, whether our society or whether in the ISKCON society, as it was in Prabhupada's time. So, okay, so there's a few other, I just want to get to some of the really, amazingly, I guess I don't have any other word for it except just nasty parts of this, of this video. And, it should not go unchallenged. The GBC really needs to, if you want a solution, if you want to avoid a schism, you have to, you should be aware of that these people are trying to make one. We're not the ones trying to make the schism.
They're forcing one.
Yeah. Okay, so continuing on, Hridayānanda Mahārāja, after he reads a letter of Prabhupada, which is interesting, where this could be read in completely the opposite way against what he and his ilk are doing. He's saying about the Bureau and about other devotees in India. He says, so these people are not following Prabhupada. They don't respect Prabhupada's GBC. They don't respect Prabhupada's many clear statements about local autonomy. These are not people faithfully following Prabhupada. What faithful follower of Prabhupada would raise a knife to his body and threaten to cut Prabhupada's body? What Vaishnava, what follower of Prabhupada would ever say such a thing?
Yeah, I think he's bringing it in the platform of dvesha.
This is just sad, you know.
That's just to incite and spread hatred. So, did I tell you that I encountered some in Mayapur, caught hold of me? Should I be sharing that even here?
Let me continue reading some more. Let me just try to get through some of these. This is just mudslinging after mudslinging, epithet after epithet. It's just so you get the idea. I'm going to read at length here. Just stop me if you feel inspired to say anything. Otherwise, I'm just going to keep reading, the select statements from this. What we have now is a group, a region that is really going astray and trying to influence, coerce the GBC. It's not that in that region, which is India, that this is Suniti Devi Dasi. She says, you mentioned previously we have a historic precedence within ISKCON for what the GBC was, going astray and leaders getting them back on track. What we have now is a group, a region that is really going astray and trying to influence and coerce the GBC. So this is a little bit different from the historic precedents. Well, I want to say, one thing. I'm just going to comment on very briefly on that. There was a Gaudiya Math leader that was becoming popular in ISKCON in the, I guess it was the 90s or something. Yeah, it was the 90s. And so one of our leaders, actually our dear Bhakti, Bhakti Vikasha Mahārāja, he actually went to the GBC with a letter and told them that I think you're making a big mistake. You're making a big mistake like we did with Śrīdhara, with Śrīdhara Swami, and we ended up disrespecting him and then created bad relations. And he was completely chewed out by the GBC, and nobody ever apologized to him in the aftermath when it turned out that he was actually right about that. So what Hridayananda Maharaj's exhibit is making us endure with all this harsh rhetoric is just, we've seen this before. We raise an issue and then, we're immediately cast as not following, as envious, as, all these nasty things we're being called. Hijackers, terrorists, mafia, all these things he's I'm not making this up. He's calling us these things. So we're going through that phase right now. So shall I continue?
Yeah, is this quite late?
Yeah, okay. So that's Suniti Devi Dasi. That's the namesake of Suniti, who could not become Dhruva's Diksha Guru, but she could become Dhruva's Diksha Guru. That's just noting that. Hridayananda Das Goswami. It's not that in that region, which is India, that all the local leaders, temple presidents are happy with his coercion and deviation and usurpation. And so actually what we need to do is communicate with these people, because actually it's not a region, it's a small group of mafiosas who actually, they've even said this because unfortunately they revealed some of their plans to someone who's not really with them, but who revealed them to us at least in the past. I'd love to know what those plans are too.
Yeah.
And they have a very clear plan to take over ISKCON. They absolutely want to dictate to the GBC. They will continue to threaten the GBC. Anytime they don't agree with the GBC resolution, the knives will come out again. Oh my God. And so if their disciples are faithful followers of the gurus, they will support Prabhupada and ISKCON and not the mafia. They're under Prabhupada. They're the only ones. They are only under living people today to the extent those people follow Prabhupada. No temple president in India, no one in any country has any spiritual obligation to follow someone who is raising a knife to Prabhupada's body. There's no such obligation. Well, okay, we say that too. Just like when Mahārāja Vena was telling everybody to not follow the Vedas, but follow him. So the Brahmanas had to stand up and do something.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah. And we think that the direction, this female Diksha Guru issue, which is really just a part of a much broader feminization project within ISKCON, is taking us in a totally opposite direction than what Srila Prabhupada wanted us to go in. Therefore, great, much better devotees than us, like Śrīdhara Maharaj, Bhakti Raghava Maharaj, Bhakti Vikash Maharaj, and others have stood up and protested.
That's correct.
But we're mafioso because we don't toe the line thread Ananda Maharaj thinks we should go in. So just labeling us. And that's what they did before when Bhakti Vikash Maharaj raised that other issue about, and Hridayananda Maharaj mentions that issue actually in this in this particular talk. So let's see, it's continues to go downhill. Prabhupada Priya, I know some devotees who are going to be thinking today, Prabhupada wanted us to follow the GBC, but if the GBC has been taken over by this mafia and has become the mouthpiece of the mafia, then it seems we should not follow the GBC in the current situation. Oh, wow.
Now, let Hridayananda Mahāraja turn the attention of Prabhupada Priya Devi Dasi to his earlier comment. So this is where one rule for me, one rule for them. Earlier he was saying, will you go against GBC? And now his own disciple, I don't know if it is Siksha disciple or whatever.
I think she's another devotee's disciple. I won't say who. Yeah,
but some kind of Shiksha she's taking from Hridayananda Maharaj, because she was his priest, yajna performing priest. I have seen some initiations that he did where she would be doing the fire sacrifice. So she is apparently Maharaja's right hand Ritvik to do these ceremonies.
Okay. She may or may not.
And she is saying she's going against GBC. She is saying she's declaring now, right?
Well, I think it's ironic that when they do it, it's okay. When they do it, it's virtuous. But when the other person does it, they're mafias. This is just propaganda at this point.
Yeah, these are toolkits.
Oh, it gets better in the sense of getting worse. It's so bad that it's good.
Yeah.
Okay, let me read here. Okay, this is written on a marsh. There's a sort of, I don't think it's so subtle, but there's a distinction here. There's something called civil disobedience, and civil disobedience is not the same as revolution. It's not a revolution where, like in the French Revolution, where, you cut the king's head off or something. This is not an anti-GBC argument we're making. We're not saying, okay, GBC, you can't do it, but rather we're bringing transparently pressure, and we should bring more pressure on the GBC until they do their job. We are demanding that the GBC lead ISKCON, not demanding that they be kicked out.
And Hridayananda Mahāraja will now justify. Earlier he said, Bureau, Mr. Bureau, India Bureau, would you agree with GBC or not? And now he says, I can talk back to GBC and say, GBC, please do your job. What a kind of, is he walking his talk?
It's, you know,
Even within paragraphs, he's contradicting himself.
I don't think I think the dangerous thing is they're just not self-aware. They just can't see themselves as anything but the good guys, and that's scary.
Yeah, this is where delusion. They think they are right, and they think GBC is in their side. They can do any damn thing.
So continuing on, Prabhupada Priya Devi Dasi. So it's kind of empowering the GBC to do what they know they need to do by boosting them up from the ground up. So when it's their side, it's boosting the GBC up to get them to do what they know they need to do. But when it's us, we're mafia, we're terrorists.
Yeah.
You know, we're rascals. Hridayananda Goswami. Yeah, and that's how many of the most important changes in history, how they were made. So just to skip forward. So it's demanding that the GBC lead ISKCON properly, not demanding that they be removed as leaders. Well, we haven't demanded that the GBC be removed as leaders. When did we ever do that? I never did it. You didn't do it. Nobody's done it.
It's simply throwing mudslinging.
It's simply throwing mud. Okay, so now this is we're getting to something really juicy here. Okay. And devotees, this is Hridayananda Maharaj, and devotees should communicate with each other. Devotees who are in ISKCON today, whatever generation you are, whatever you know, whatever generation, this is your chance to do what your predecessors have done, and this is to save ISKCON from an existential threat. This is an existential threat to Prabhupada's body. Okay, if you're talking, if there's an existential threat, then what measure are you not prepared to take to prevent that? And we do agree there's an existential threat, but we disagree about where that existential threat is.
That's right.
And you know, but we'll leave the philosophy part to another thing. I'll just say briefly that the biggest existential threat is the one that is the most difficult to detect, like rabies. If you have to wait till the symptoms of rabies manifest, then you're finished. That's why philosophy is important. That's why Siddhanta and argue on the basis of the shāstras is important, because you can't do this by pratyaksha and anuman. You actually have to, you know, this is the way we should be doing it, and therefore we challenged the SAC 4 years ago to a shastrartha, but they turned it down.
I don't know. You know, will Hridayananda Mahārāja come out and be ready?
Well, first there has to be a change in tone. You know, they have to back off this calling us mafiosa, mafia. They have to back off this. Otherwise, there's no point. We're not going to put up.
Yeah. Why would you even? That's right.
That's what. Okay, so continuing on, and so he says, and so you have these. Oh yeah, this would be hilarious had they, you know, if this were in a serious situation. They stood up for Prabhupada against these existential threat to ISKCON by a mafia, almost all of whom are actually not even Indians. These are not devotees from a Hindu background. These are Western people, you know, and they even, you know, it's very ironic that they play this card sort of, you know, because in India now, there's a whole wave with Modi and everything, who I actually like, but there's this whole wave of, like, you know, sort of transcending the colonial past. No one's ever going to push India around again. And so you have these colonial Western devotees who are not even Indians trying to play their card like stand up for Bharat, when in fact they're just Western manipulators.
Well, at least he has excluded me in this accusation. That's probably you. But I'll tell you what, the Indian youth are waking up to the truth, that what they consider truth, of course. They are waking up to the truth that the British kind of mentality of divide and rule has really, you know, wedged us. So the youth is not going to be, or they're not going to cave in to this kind of appeals, because this youth is not, especially ISKCON youth, they are not just like, zombies that they would be, arm twisted here and there. We see that so many are reading scriptures, so many are seeing the full thing. And many of the Indians, youths, actually came up to me and asked me, Prabhuji, why would the other side not show one Shastra Praman? So this is why in India, the culture of Shastra as the center of all is deep driven. No matter where, we saw that in the SJTA discussion. They were keeping Shastra in the center. Whether they are keeping the right Shastra or not, they were asking, the king was saying, Prabhupada is an Acharya, and Acharya should follow Shastra. You remember in our discussion? So this is like, they're going to ask this question. And Hridayānanda Mahārāja ji, please prepare your answer for this one question. Where is the Shastra Praman for, female Diksha Guru? And why did Prabhupada not appoint? He said, he might have said in 1975, by 1975, all of my disciples should be initiating spiritual masters in that letter or in that big correspondence.
Well, that letter, that letter, it's like, for example, the GBC, Prabhupada also wrote a letter, what's called the Direction of Management, DMO, but Prabhupada never implemented it.
Yeah, that's my point. 1975 came and went when Prabhupada was there. Why did he not see that every disciple of his should be a guru?
This is why Prabhupada said his letter shouldn't be published.
Yeah, and my question is again, Prabhupada again and again said, implement varṇāśrama-dharma. And again, Hridayānanda Mahārāja ji, why are you not paying any attention? Where is a single lecture of yours that gives some direction for the youth as to how to implement varṇāśrama-dharma? Why would you not give the same appeal to awaken whole of the youth population of ISKCON to wake up to varṇāśrama-dharma and come up with a brilliant idea to implement varṇāśrama-dharma because Prabhupada wanted it?
I can answer that. I'll tell you why. Yeah. Because this whole issue on the female Diksha Guru issue is really all about Manusmriti, Manusamhita 9.3. That's right. That's the famous shloka. Na stri svatantriya marhati.
Swatantriya marhanti.
Yeah. Pita rakshiti komare, Bharta rakshiti yone, rakshanti stavare putraha, nastri svatantriya marhati. So this is because Prabhupada has used this Prabhupada's reference to this shloka is all pervasive, in his books, letters, conversations, everywhere. And this is the thing. And the thing is, this is why they are beating up on us so badly, because they really want to beat up on this Prabhupada. They really think Prabhupada was wrong to cite this as authority. Yeah. But because they can't say that, and they have that much common sense that they can't come out and just say it directly, what they do instead is they beat up and they denigrate and they malign and slander persons who do stick up for that. That's what's going on here.
Yeah,
this is the thing that nobody can actually talk about this, but we're going to talk about it.
Some of the Western, I heard somebody say, don't say that V word, the varṇāśrama word.
Yeah.
They made it as a demon. They made it as a bad word.
Yeah.
So again, Hridayānanda Mahārāja is trying to, if he thinks that some 4 or 5 Western devotees are brainwashing or that the Indians should think for themselves, good luck, Mahārāja ji. Try to get them away from Shastra. I don't know. It's all up to you. I am not a Western body, and I can tell you, Mahārāja ji, I have heard many of your lectures. I have heard your debates. One point of time, myself and my family were fan of yours. We watched, we loved the deprogrammer debate that you debated for Prabhupada. Couple of debates that you were really motivating a whole, that was inspiring. And you were supporter of Vedic culture. But it's all in the past tense. We see your own statements going against these things. And you think that Mahāraji, Indians will be happy to hear this? Actually, the personals whom you are accusing of white body, they have done a lot of service for Indian culture. I would like to know, Mahāraji, how much you have written about glorifying Vedic culture. There is a book that turned my life around, The Glimpses of Traditional Indian Life. I am coming from a Sri Vaishnava background. And my father, when he visited America, Kṛṣṇa Kīrti Prabhu, this would be interesting for you to know. He was so happy with everything that he observed in ISKCON. But while leaving for, departing in a plane back to India, he said, look, Śrīdhar, everything is good. But one thing is, I would like you to stay in the Sampradaya of Sri Sampradaya. Don't take initiation. And then I thought about it. Again, I saw that who brought me back in. Then I read the book, Glimpses of Traditional Indian Life. And in that, His Holiness Bhakti Vikas Swami Maharaj made a very powerful statement that changed my life. And Maharaj said that spiritual life is like walking on a tight rope. And culture is the safety net. The Vedic culture, the Krishna conscious culture, the Indian culture is the safety net. So it's guaranteed that we will be in multiple attempts. We are likely to fall off, but we can climb up back on the, if there is a safety net in terms of culture, we can climb up back on the rope. That gave me the hope. So, and my father, later on, when I was about to take initiation, I asked permission, and he was so happy to grant it. And he said, I see now that you are reading Bhagavata and you are speaking Bhagavata. So yes, I'm not going to stop you. You must proceed in the right direction. And he even checked with his, the Ahoblamat Jia. And he was saying, my son went to ISKCON. And the whole Ahoblamat Jia said, so what? He is also chanting Krishna's name. You are chanting Vishnu's name. And my father was so relieved. So this is the way that this Indian culture is so great. They are not going to wedge something into anybody's mind by these kind of propagandas. So I really think that Hridayananda Mahāraja should utilize, Prabhupada's mercy is upon him. He has done great services for Prabhupada, but he should be a proponent of Vedic culture in its original form as it is and as given by Prabhupada. That would be my concluding statement, Kṛṣṇa Kīrti Prabhu. I don't know if you plan to go on further.
No, I think that this nicely concludes our podcast. This was this is a wonderful description from the heart. So I think that I don't know if we need to do any more further review of Mahārāja's talk. But I think that at this point, we all get the point. So thank you very much, Śrīdhara Śrīnivāsa Prabhu, for discussing this with me.
Thank you, Kṛṣṇa Kīrti Prabhu.
Vanchakalpatarubhyascha, kripsamevacha, patitanam bhavanibhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha.